in Kogi State, and bandits actually attacked and carried out a coordinated attack on Yagba West and Yagba East, where we understand that a couple of people were actually abducted in those areas. They also stormed the Cherubim and Seraphim church in that particular area of the state, precisely Ejiba, where we understand that the pastor and some worshippers were also abducted in the early hours of today. And we had our correspondent, Balagbogbo, share details with us as regards how that particular incident happened and what the government in Kogi State is doing to put an end to these insecurity issues that seems to be skyrocketing right there. Mono, so I understand that you are back now, yes, and I can see you. So I'd like to find out, do we have an understanding as regards how many people were actually abducted? And aside government rhetoric, what's actually being done in coordination with security agents in the state to see that those people abducted are actually rescued?
Well, so good to be back, Lakon. Right now, there is no particular number associated with those who were abducted from the church, and also the attack on the road, where, as you saw earlier, the vehicle was abandoned and passengers, of course, were whisked away. There's no specific number. All we know right now is that security operatives are working to ensure that they get those persons back and also apprehend the bandits. That is all we know for now. But I sent in a visual earlier on with a helicopter coming into that particular axis in Yagba. That's telling you that security operatives are on the ground. So they were very swift to respond and own up to the fact that this actually happened today, because usually what happens when we hear these reports from residents in those particular communities, we reach out to the government. Sometimes they are not. Only when those individuals have been rescued, that is when the government will give a response. But of course, earlier on, as I reported, the Commissioner for Information, Kingsley Fanwo, acknowledged the abductions of those worshippers in that particular community, and also attested to the fact that security operatives have been deployed, and they are ensuring with the governor to ensure that those particular set of persons, the number has not been disclosed. We don't know the number of persons, but you can see that that church is an uncompleted building, and of course it's very difficult to really ascertain the particular number of persons that were abducted in that particular CAC church. It's a local building, and of course, very hidden away from town, unlike what we saw in Cherubim back in Kogi State. So, but one thing is common with these abductions, Lakon. It is always on the road paths between Kogi and Kogi State. These roads are not good roads. The roads are very, very bad. And the government in the state has attributed the fact that these roads are federal government roads, and so it won't cost a lot for them to actually intervene. But when we keep seeing these resurgence of bandit attacks, it's practically almost every day right here in Kogi State. If it's not Kogi State, it is Kogi State, especially those border communities. They are always being attacked. But we've seen a lot of proactiveness on the part of government. I must report on that. I talked about Security Council meetings with national leaders, because I found that because I've been on the field, during some of these operations, you discover some local communities are actually partnering with bandits. So they get intelligence, and that sometimes makes it difficult for security operatives to actually apprehend these individuals, because how would you know that a community service is actually going on? And I mean, consecutive attacks in just one day. I mean, that tells a lot in terms of the boldness of some of these bandits. And we're hoping and praying to God that the security operatives will not just get those who were kidnapped back, but also apprehend these bandits. Because we've seen a pattern here: when there are attacks, there are likely no arrests. When there are arrests, prosecution, everything goes numb. All we hear is that they rescued those who were abducted, they been rescued. But I mean, in terms of penalization for those who perpetuate these dastardly acts, I mean, Lincoln, people wake up in the morning today and they tell themselves that they're going to church to pray and to fellowship with their Maker. No one has that belief that they wouldn't feel safe in what is supposed to be the house of God. And even Kingsley Fanwo on his Facebook post earlier today and was urging citizens and residents to ensure that wherever they are going to worship, they should ensure that there's security. When you look at the situation of that particular CAC church, you can see that it's in a remote area. There's clearly no road path. It's an uncompleted building. And you ask yourself, how do you feel safe, especially with the news of bandit attacks here and there? Even the state government last week had put a curfew for 4 p.m. No public gatherings should exceed 4 p.m. And in these words, I will personally demolish and bring down any building that is hosting any group of individuals past the time of 4 p.m. So I think as residents in the state, it goes beyond just what the government can do, but also what we ourselves as citizens can do to ensure that we protect ourselves. And that's the update.
Well, of course, we know how traumatizing it is for one to live in palpable fear, not knowing where one particular attack would spring up from, and not knowing how secured one would be, even as one would go about east or endeavor, and one would just pray and hope that not only the government, as you said, but then concerted efforts would be galvanized across board to end the spate of kidnappings and killings, not only in Kogi State, but every other vulnerable community affected. Thank you, Mona, for sharing these details with us. We'll cross back with you probably subsequently in other bulletins. It was nice having you do this for us.